We can't calculate, we can't predict what effect our actions of generosity will have on the world around us. What I do know, though, is that those acts have exponential impact, and that those acts are viral, that they take on a life of their own. They change the world around each and every one of us forever. The last time I saw my mother alive was on a business trip to Edmonton in 1996. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. Driving downtown, I was shocked when I saw her standing on a street corner. She was mentally ill and highly mobile. Her homes had become rooming houses and shelters. She died alone in a rooming house 2 years later. I couldn't have known it at the time, but my mother's tragic story would inspire a chain reaction of generosity that would change my life and the world around me forever. I was bound and determined to do whatever I had to do to make up for my past. So I poured myself into my new business. I'd started a payday loan company with 1 employee. 10 years later, I had 500 employees. I'd finally hit my home run. I woke up one morning and realized that I'd already made more money than I'd ever thought possible. My desire to become wealthy, I saw, I think, as a destination. The idea that one day, all of the sadness, all the brokenness of my past would be wiped away, and that I somehow would now enter into this new and better utopia that was the land that people that were wealthy had. Had a beautiful wife, a beautiful family, a beautiful home, yet I wasn't feeling fulfilled. So I was looking at all that I had done, the business I had built and the money that I had, and really asking myself if this is all there is to life. And if this is all there is, you know, what's the point? You know, why struggle so hard? Why worry so much about everything? I was at a crossroads, really wondering what life was all about. Then something happened. A series of events occurred that opened my mind to a new way of life.
Business was one thing, but his spiritual and his emotional character morphed into this person that became very concerned about, you know, society and helping others.
The idea of starting the Vivian came out of a relationship we had with a homeless shelter in Vancouver. A lady there, Leslie, was concerned there was no minimum barrier housing available for the hardest of hard to house women. Not long after that, I came across a rooming house that was available for sale in the downtown east side, a 24-room rooming house on Cordova, which we bought, and we had it renovated and converted into a transitional housing project. Leslie and the people at Triage asked if it'd be okay to call the building the Vivian. So to this day, the Vivian, a building named after my mother, operates and supports these very broken women in the downtown east side. Building the Vivian had been a deeply personal and private experience for me. I didn't want or need any recognition. I discovered later that my friend Nigel had other ideas.
The Kaufman Foundation had a community service award, and they were going to present it to a person in the community. Without Dave knowing, I put in an application for him to possibly win this award. I had no idea if it was, but I just felt so passionate that he'd done so much that he needed some kind of recognition, or the causes needed recognition to get momentum. So it was presented, and he ended up winning this award. It was quite an amazing thing. We were all there, and there was a lot of tears actually at this event.
Two days after returning from receiving this award in Montreal, I get a telephone call out of nowhere from a lady by the name of Glory Meldrum from Edmonton. And Glory is talking to me on the telephone about how inspired she was in Montreal, hearing my story about starting the Vivian.
He was talking about how he had wanted to help his mother who had lived on the streets. And when she passed away, he created this shelter for street women in Vancouver. And in that moment, it really kind of connected things for me that I could use kind of my business sense and my experiences as a survivor of child sexual abuse to do something similar. And so honestly, then and there, I started writing out It's Little Warriors. It's going to be about prevention and treatment and awareness. While I was at the conference crying in a group of 500 people, like I was like bawling, and it was divine.
Glory is an absolute stranger to me. I'd never met her. I didn't meet her in Montreal. I'd never met her before then. So I'm on the telephone in my office, sitting in this chair. I'm talking to Glory, and I'm encouraging her and saying, "That's wonderful, Glory. I'm glad to hear I inspired you, and I'm very touched by the kind words that she's giving me." And I thank her, and I hang up. And I figure that's the end of the conversation, that I'll never hear from this person again. Glory made good on her promise and started the Little Warriors. She also started the Be Brave Ranch, a place where children who've been sexually abused can go and receive the professional care and treatment that they need. I was deeply touched when I learned that it was my story about the Vivian that inspired Glory, who was a complete stranger to me at that time. Talking with Glory on the phone that day made me think of what inspired me to start giving back. In 2002, I attended a Birthing of Giants workshop in Boston, sponsored by EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, and Inc. magazine. The subject that day was how to use your business as a force for good. One of the people sharing was Mike. He talked about how his auto parts manufacturing company gave away 20% of their profits to good causes right off the top. I had struggled for years to try and just make a profit. And here this man was giving away 20% of his profits no matter how much he made. For a hard-hitting business guy like me who's in the business of making money and taking money, to start giving money away was Wally World.
You can tell a person's heart by looking at their checkbook, I think. It does say a lot about a person, how you give. If the business was structured to make the biggest difference in the world, not to make the owners as rich as possible, what would you do?
So I went home inspired by Mike with the idea that maybe there was a seed of something here in his story, in his life of generosity that I might be able to draw from. Mike had started it all without him knowing it. His story of radical generosity, which was fueled by his faith, had taken on a life of its own. For the first time, I was right in the middle of a chain reaction of generosity, watching lives transform all around me. Mike tells his story one afternoon. He doesn't know what's going to happen. My life is radically changed and inspired. And by default, he's also changed Glory's life, because I wouldn't have been here doing what I'm doing to inspire Glory. I felt so deeply honored. I said, you know, it's selfish for me not to let Mike know how he's changed my life. So I tracked him down and I sent him an email. When I reconnected with Mike, we talked about having a reunion one day. We finally made good on that promise last year when we flew to Edmonton to visit Glory.
So, these kids are playing in the backyard, so I don't say anything. I come with the ball and I just kind of dump it over the wall in the backyard and take off. And all I can hear is squealing, like, what is that?
Mike's vague recollection of me is over a beer after class several years earlier, and that's his vague recollection of me. And my recollection of him was a lot more, more profound. Mike, you may not remember me, but I haven't forgotten you. We were Birthing a Giant's classmates, and you shared something one day that changed my life. You were the first person I'd ever met who was engaged in such committed generosity within your company. I left class that year committed to being more deliberate in my giving. I wanted you to know the exponential, generational impact your story had that day. Your story has also changed Glory's life and the lives of thousands of vulnerable children that the Little Warriors helps every year. We will never know the full impact. Thank you for your obedience to God's call on your life. David.
Wow, I'm sitting here praying. No one wanders by my desk and wonders why I have tears streaming down my face. I guess the church is supposed to be like this, where we all chip in a little bit of what we are learning and then let the Holy Spirit grab hold and start doing some wild, cool stuff. But when it happens, it still gives me goosebumps, tears and chills, and sadly, I'm surprised at some level. I'm just glad we crossed paths back then and had a chance to share some thoughts on using business as a tool to make a difference in the world.
When people see us do good, other people do good. That's why it's contagious. One does it, someone else gets inspired, then they do something, right? It's wild.
I think there's a part of every person that responds to giving that's way deeper than most people recognize.
I do it because I love how it makes me feel.
When our hearts are open to that and our minds are open to that, opportunities will present themselves.
Step away from that busy mind of, I gotta get the kids here and I gotta do this and I gotta get this business thing done, and just stop. What can you do to help another human being?
Giving of money is important because it kind of establishes where your heart's at, but I don't even know that it's the most important thing to give.
No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're young, whether you're old, you can live a life filled with generosity, meaning and purpose, and make a difference in the world around you forever.
Do something small, something good, something of service, one act that fills your heart, and I guarantee you, it is a joy and a love that will just continue to build as you do more.